is Rita Nakashima Brock, and I'm from Oakland, California.
And what have you been doing to grow the hope?
I have been working to create networks of progressive religious people who want to work together on social issues. And I've been working with a publisher in New York to create a series of progressive books in religion on major social issues like war and the environment and women and racism and poverty. So, those are just a couple of things.
Wow. Could you tell us more about these books?
They're books by prominent religious scholars and leaders, including people like Rosemary Ruther, a famous feminist Catholic, and Rabbi Rebecca Alpert, who's one of the first women ordained a rabbi in Judaism, and Daniel McGuire is a really famous Catholic social ethicist. And they talk about their own religious traditions as supporting a commitment to end poverty and racism and sexism and war and to protect the environment. And then that's one series, and then I have another series called Does Not Equal. And Rosemary Ruther wrote a book in that series called Catholic Does Not Equal the Vatican, where she critiques the idea of infallibility and some of the Vatican's huge mistakes, especially around women and sexual abuse and things like that. And an evangelical who wrote a book, an African-American woman, called Evangelical Does Not Equal Republican or Democrat. Which is really a fun book and a thoughtful book. And then I have one coming out by a Jewish scholar named Mark Ellis that is called Judaism Does Not Equal Israel. And it's a prophetic Jewish critique of the support for Israel. All of it, you know, it's a critique of Israel's policies against the Palestinians. So, which turns out right now to be hugely timely. It will be out in the spring.
Right, and speaking of Israel and poverty and the things going on in the world, what do you hope that the new administration is going to do to address these issues?
I hope that the new administration puts the U.S. back into the world as a citizen among nations rather than as this big military power that bullies people and does preemptive wars.
Right.
I think the environmental crisis, global poverty, there's so many issues that no nation alone can solve by themselves. And so if we don't figure out how to create an international set of coalitions to address these problems, I don't think they're really going to be solved. I mean, so much of our economic system is already outsourced and connected to a whole global network. We have to do something about that. And terrorism isn't a national problem, it's an international network, and so it has to be dealt with by cooperative arrangements with other countries, and if they hate us, they're not going to cooperate with us. So I'm hoping that there will be that kind of international attention paid, and also that we figure out how to make sure that no one in our country is poor and that everyone has health care and a fair shake at a decent life. And I feel like for maybe the first time in 3 decades of my life that something is really possible, something new. There's so much, I know that there's so much riding on tomorrow and the change, but I also think that there's an enormous energy in the country that's moved to. Everybody wants him, even though 58% of the people voted against him want him to succeed. So that's remarkable, and I think it's a testimony to his attempt to unite the country. And I think he might actually pull it off.
Right.
Yeah.
But we can't just, put all of the responsibility on him.
Yeah, that's what I
mean.
mean. Yeah. That's why I think so many people want him to succeed. Means we're all going to be pulling for him and doing what we can. And it's also a tone. It's a tone of not demonizing other people and finding ways to work with people we may not even like very much. That's something we all have to learn to do. So I'm actually more hopeful than I've been in a very, very long time for the fate of the planet and for the human species on the planet. Yeah. So I'm just grateful to have lived to see this, to live this long, because I remember I grew up in My stepfather was a white Southerner in the U.S. military, and so from the time I was, from 1956 when I came here as a Japanese immigrant, until I started high school, I spent time with his family in rural Mississippi. And I was living there the year that James Meredith was trying to integrate Ole Miss, and I remember the race riots, and I remember being the only non-white person in the junior high. And it's such a, I mean, to think that we have an African-American president is an amazing thing to me. It's a miracle. It feels like a miracle.
I mean, that's a huge change to live through in just one lifetime.
Yeah.
To go from that to today.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, because my mother was a nurse in Japan, and when I came to the U.S. in 1956, people hated Japanese people.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of my friends were interned in the Second World War. They were in prison just for being Japanese, and they were American citizens. That we have a government that's capable of doing that is something I think we all have to keep remembering. And to me, that's why being really active as a citizen is important, because you have to hold your government accountable in a democracy for the mistakes it makes, and not so much to punish people, but to right the wrongs. And I feel like some giant wrong is going to be righted tomorrow. It won't fix everything, but it's a symbolic, it's not just symbolic, it's real. That some great wrong has somehow been righted.
How do you think that Grow the Hope and just like any community organizing or things can get the community like pumped up and like actually going out and doing stuff?
Well, I think people are more willing to connect to other people and get involved when they feel good. And I think people feel good, right? As bad as everything is economically, and we're in 2 wars, people actually feel good. And when people feel good, they tend to reach out to other people, and we really can't do it individually. We really do have to figure out how to work together cooperatively. And so I think that those doors have been opened up. And I just finished a book in July that is a new understanding of Christian salvation that makes a case that for 1,000 years in Christianity, Christians believed that when they were baptized, they entered the doors of paradise in this world. And their job was to be good citizens of life on earth and to love each other, take care of the poor, appreciate the beauties and blessings of creation, and live the life that Jesus lived. And they didn't believe his death saved them. They believed his ministry and his resurrection and their memory of him saved them. And I think the kind of Christianity that we've seen operating, that believes that the death of Jesus saves the world, is the kind of Christianity that will do anything to end the world. And so one of my little teeny contributions within my own religious tradition to Grow the Hope is to offer a different way of understanding what it means to be saved as a Christian, which is to work in the world for good.